Chapter 1 of Voyager's The Sleeping Abductees by Ashayana Deane is titled UFOs, Visitors and the Interior Government. It serves as a foundational chapter for the entire series, blending alleged personal experience, metaphysical theory, and an alternative history of extraterrestrial interaction with Earth. Here's a long, detailed retelling and synthesis of that chapter's content and themes. Overview and purpose. Chapter 1 begins with the premise that UFO phenomena are not random or new. Rather, they are part of a long, ongoing history of human contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. The author frames her narrative as a factual account derived from information transcribed from beings called the Guardian Alliance, not as fiction or mere speculation. She introduces a hidden cosmic drama involving two main factions: the Guardians, who are benevolent and aim to protect human spiritual evolution, and the intruders who seek to manipulate and control Earth for their own purposes. The author's first contact experiences. The story opens in 1969 when Deane, then a child, recounts being abducted by small grey beings, classic greys with large black eyes, while playing outside. These events continued for 3 years, during which she underwent medical experiments aboard spacecraft and observed a hierarchy of non-human entities. The Zeta Reticuli Greys, small and emotionless beings serving as workers or scientists. The Zephelium, tall, blue-skinned beings who were administrators of the Zetas. The insectoid overseers, resembling moths or spiders, who held supervisory roles. She later learns these species belong to a larger Zeta Dracos alliance, an extraterrestrial political power originating from the Orion star system. According to her narrative, this alliance made covert agreements with human governments during and after the World Wars, trading technological advancements for permission to abduct and experiment on humans. The Guardian Alliance and benevolent visitors. At age 7, Deane's experiences changed when she met another grey being, this time with bright blue eyes, who introduced her to a protective group called the Guardian Alliance, GA. The GA is described as a vast interdimensional coalition of advanced species who work together under the Interdimensional Association of Free Worlds, IAFW. Their mission: to safeguard developing planets and prevent interference by malevolent races. Deane lists numerous Guardian species, each representing different evolutionary and spiritual levels. Lyran Syrian whites, pale humanoids known as the Founders or Elder races. Athean, tall, mantis-like beings of high spiritual awareness. Rantankiana, Ranthia, luminous beings with translucent skin and radiant energy fields. Brno, beings of light from the highest dimensions. Queventelia, large, intelligent, ape-like creatures who sometimes appear on Earth to monitor the biosphere. Turanusiums, tall, luminous humans, said to be humanity's original progenitors. These Guardians introduced Deane to spiritual teachings, multidimensional physics, and something she calls keontic morphogenetic science, a system of energy and symbol-based communication tied to the structure of creation. Education and the children's circles. The Guardians frequently took her aboard their crafts to attend children's circles, where abducted or invited children were educated. She was trained to read and interpret a symbolic language called keic, said to encode reality itself. Through these teachings, she was told she would one day serve as a translator for interdimensional communications between the Guardians and humanity. Deane emphasizes that these contacts were not hallucinations or hypnosis-induced recollections. She claims full conscious memory of these experiences. The Guardians told her to remain silent until adulthood, warning that human society and science were not ready to accept the truth of extraterrestrial involvement. Adolescence and the return of the intruders. In her teenage years, Deane reports that the intruders, the hostile Zeta factions, resumed abducting her, this time with assistance from human military operatives. She describes being taken to underground facilities, interrogated and implanted with devices. These operations supposedly formed part of a covert collaboration between Earth's interior government and the Zeta Dracos forces. Her memories from this time are fragmented, which she attributes to mind control and memory suppression technologies used by her captors. Near-death experience and liberation. In 1983, Deane experienced a near-death experience, NDE, that she says ended the intruder's control. During this event, the Guardians allegedly removed her implants and restored her natural bioenergetic system. From that point onward, she began receiving telepathic transmissions and dry data communications, streams of encoded information transmitted directly into her biofield as keylontic symbol codes. These would translate into words or images inside her mind like psychic email. The Guardian Alliance's message between 1996 and 1998, Deane claims the Guardians directed her to go public and translate their full message into human language, forming the Voyagers series. The data transmissions were said to come directly from their base of operations in the year 6020 AD on the planet Tara, which is described as a future, parallel version of Earth. From Tara, the Guardians oversee humanity's development across time and dimensions. Their message, she says, is to warn humanity of 1. Ongoing manipulation by the Zeta Draco's intruder races. 2. The existence of multidimensional physics far beyond current science. 3. The upcoming planetary changes that will lead to Earth's ascension or golden age. 4. The necessity of reclaiming spiritual sovereignty through the law of one. The understanding that all beings and realities are interconnected expressions of divine consciousness. Humanity's true origins and cosmic drama. According to this chapter, humanity's origins trace back to the Turanusium elder race, who seeded human life on Earth millions of years ago under the Emerald Covenant, a treaty established to protect evolving species from genetic manipulation and enslavement. However, the Zeta and Dracos groups violated this covenant, seeking to hybridize human DNA and control reincarnation cycles through technology and psychological manipulation. This cosmic struggle, she asserts, is what underlies modern UFO activity and abduction reports. The author's mission. Deane concludes the chapter by affirming that she is not channeling but rather translating the Guardian's encoded transmissions. She presents herself as a keylontic translator, tasked with delivering this knowledge so humanity can awaken, resist manipulation and prepare for the upcoming shift in planetary frequency, the transition into the so-called bridge zone leading to a higher dimension. Themes and tone. The chapter blends personal narrative, abduction memories and contact training, conspiracy theory, government alien treaties, metaphysical cosmology, multi-dimensional structure of creation, and spiritual mission, awakening humanity to its true heritage. It closes with a message of both warning and hope, that while malevolent forces seek control, humanity has powerful allies in the Guardian Alliance and the ability to reclaim its divine legacy through awareness and self-empowerment. Would you like me to make a chronological summary, events only, or a conceptual map explaining the beings, alliances and systems mentioned in Chapter 1? Got it. Here's a full retelling of Chapter 2, Keylonta Science and Abduction, from Voyagers 1, The Sleeping Abductees by Ashayana Deane. This is a faithful narrative-style retell, not word for word. It's long and detailed, summarizing the concepts, story flow, and teachings in this chapter. Chapter 2, Keylonta Science and Abduction, retelling. After laying the groundwork of extraterrestrial history and alliances in Chapter 1, this chapter dives into the inner mechanics of how alien contact, especially abductions, actually happens. It also introduces the Guardian's teaching system called keylontic science, which the author says explains how consciousness, energy, and matter interact across dimensions. 1. From experienced to explanation. Deane begins by explaining that during her years of contact with the Guardian Alliance, GA, she was taught why and how abductions occur. Not only by the hostile Zeta Draco intruder races, but even sometimes by benevolent races like the Guardians. The difference, she says, lies in intent and method. Intruder races use abduction for genetic manipulation, psychological control and soul-level interference, whereas the Guardians use abductions or temporary removals to educate, heal or protect individuals involved in the Earth drama. But understanding these encounters, she says, requires grasping the science that underlies all multidimensional interaction, something she calls keylonta. 2. Keylonta, the language of creation. The term keylonta comes from the Guardian's term for a universal symbol code language used by advanced civilizations to build, program, and navigate reality structures. In Guardian teaching, The keylontic language is not verbal, but energetic and geometric. It consists of symbol codes that correspond to energy frequencies, which can shape matter, consciousness, and perception. These codes are said to form the morphogenetic field, a template or energetic blueprint beneath all physical form. Everything, planets, DNA, emotions, thought forms, exists first as a keylontic pattern in subtle energy fields before manifesting as matter. She compares it to how modern computers use binary code to create software. Likewise, the universe, she says, runs on keylontic code, and advanced species, like the Guardians, can read, translate, and alter those codes. 3. Interdimensional communication. Deane explains that this language is the medium through which she receives dry data transmissions. The Guardians communicate directly through her bioenergetic field, sending encoded symbol packages that her nervous system translates into mental words or images. This process, she says, bypasses normal telepathy or channeling. It's an electronic bioneurological form of thought transmission. Through these teachings, she came to see that what we call reality is actually a holographic projection, filtered through our personal morphogenetic field. In other words, our brains and DNA act as receivers that interpret a vast field of frequencies, meaning that reality differs depending on one's energetic coding and awareness. This principle, she says, is the key to understanding abductions. 4. Subconscious symbol codes and perception. Each human being has a subconscious code pattern, a personal subset of the universal keylontic language. Intruder races exploit this by using symbolic frequencies, tones, and light codes to manipulate perception. When abductees see a ship or being, they are often viewing a holographic projection inserted into their personal perception field. These are called holographic inserts, frequency-based illusions that can mask or alter what a person experiences. The mind, she says, translates raw energy into sensory form. Therefore, by altering that energy at a subtle level, visitors can control what you see, feel, or remember. The Zeta agenda and perceptual interference. This section revisits the Zeta Reticuli Greys and their agenda. According to the Guardian's data, the Zeta species were once humanoid, but destroyed their natural genetic code through excessive cloning and radiation misuse on their own world. Their DNA became unstable and they lost reproductive ability. To survive, they sought compatible DNA templates, particularly that of the human silicate matrix, to rebuild themselves. But since the Zetas had cut themselves off from natural source energy, their methods involved invasive hybridization and psychic control rather than co-creative exchange. They use keylontic interference technology to project false perceptions, the white room or surgery tables often reported by abductees, erase or rewrite memories after procedures, create screen memories to cover the real events, e.g. seeing owls or lights instead of ships, drain or reroute human life force energy to stabilize their own dying race. Deane explains that abduction scenarios occur both physically and interdimensionally. Many take place on the dream plane, which the Zetas can access through keylontic frequency matching with a human's subconscious symbol codes. 6. Holographic inserts and mind control. Here she details how holographic technology works. It's not a projected movie image, but a frequency hologram that overlays the natural environment. A human's nervous system reads this frequency as solid reality. So if you are shown an image of being in a craft, the body's sensory data aligns with the illusion. The most advanced groups can even simulate time lapses so that a few minutes of missing time might hide an experience spanning hours or days in another dimensional field. Such interference, she says, can also extend to collective groups, explaining why entire families, neighborhoods, or military units sometimes report shared visions of UFOs or missing hours. In contrast, use the same keylontic science ethically for healing, education, and protection, never for manipulation. 7. The mechanics of visitor abduction. Deane then outlines what actually happens during an abduction from the Guardian Alliance's scientific viewpoint. 1. Frequency lock-on. The visitor, Zeta or other, identifies a target whose personal vibration resonates with their operating frequency band. This lock allows them to access the person's morphogenetic field. 2. Bioenergetic field capture. The abductee's energy body is pulled into alignment with the visitor's dimension, sometimes by transmuting molecular vibration temporarily. 3. Dimensional transport through a phase shift. Similar to quantum tunneling, the abductee is relocated into a spacecraft or parallel field, though their physical body may remain in bed while their atomic structure temporarily reassembles in another space-time coordinate. 4. Procedures or communication. Intruder groups perform experiments, implantation, or energy extraction. Guardian groups may perform template repair, energy recalibration, or teaching sessions. 5. Memory and return. The abductee is returned to the original time-space coordinate. Intruders usually implant false memory blocks. Guardians may erase traumatic recall for protection until the person can process it consciously. She emphasizes that, from the Guardian perspective, abductions are frequency events, not only physical but interdimensional. This explains why conventional science fails to record physical evidence. The events occur in a different frequency band outside the range of human perception and measurement. 8. Human empowerment and protection. The Guardians, she says, teach abductees how to defend themselves by learning to control their personal energy fields and keylontic codes. Through meditation, symbol activation, and moral integrity, staying aligned with the law of one, a person can raise their vibration beyond the frequency range that intruders can penetrate. She calls this process bioregenesis, restoring the original human DNA template, which reconnects the person to higher spiritual dimensions and cuts off manipulation. When one learns to command their own morphogenetic field, external interference, whether psychic, alien, or dimensional, becomes impossible. 9. The broader implication. Deane concludes the chapter by asserting that humanity's collective ignorance of keylontic science keeps us vulnerable. The Zeta and other intruders exploit that ignorance to manipulate our perceptions and even influence our governments. However, as moves toward a major frequency shift, later described as the bridge zone or ascension timeline, more humans will naturally awaken their keylontic senses, see through holographic interference, and remember their multidimensional heritage. She warns that the coming years will intensify both sides of this hidden war, the intruders' attempts to control humanity's evolution and the Guardians' efforts to awaken it. The deciding factor, she says, will be awareness, understanding that energy, thought, and consciousness are all programmable through symbol and frequency. Once humans reclaim that knowledge, they will no longer be passive, sleeping abductees, but active voyagers in the multidimensional cosmos. Summary of core concepts: concept, meaning, function, keylonta. The universal symbol code language of energy used to form reality. Morphogenetic field, the energetic blueprint that shapes physical existence. Holographic inserts, artificial frequency illusions used by intruders to control perception. Zeta agenda, a dying race seeking to use human DNA and energy to survive. Guardian Alliance, a benevolent coalition using keylontic science to aid humanity's evolution. Bioregenesis, restoring original DNA and spiritual awareness to prevent manipulation. Tone and Purpose Chapter 2 deepens the book's purpose to reframe UFO abductions not as random horror, as events within a vast interdimensional science, one that humans can eventually master. It transforms the fear narrative of abductee into the empowerment path of the awakening voyager. Would you like me to tell Chapter 3, Human Origins and Hybridization, next? It continues directly from this, explaining how the human genome was designed and hybridized by different races.